Quickly talk about the basketball stories this particular morning. And we're staying with Kevin Durant. Well, he made some statements for the last game for the Brooklyn Nets. Said, the Brooklyn Nets and the ambition for the season was really hampered, has really been hampered by his absence owing to that MCL injury. How much of truth is this? And if that's the true situation, how much of trouble are the Brooklyn Nets in, considering, injury being a part of the game, and, if they make the playoffs, if he gets injured, what then for them?
We've talked about it all season, Bright James. It's been difficult. We remember the beginning of the season. It was about the Steph Curry side, the Golden State Warrior, and the Brooklyn Nets. They were the dominant figures at that point, chunking out those results. And it had to be Kevin Durant who was getting on the score sheet, getting on the scores, getting on the basket, and doing exceptionally well for the side. Then the knee injury came. He was out for a while. And we begin to see the stock plummet for me. It was that difficult because, and we've talked about it having the big sides with the likes of Durant, and you have the big players not missing the shot, not being around, and the team begins to suffer. It's what we've seen. We really hope that, and thanks goodness, they were in a good position. And right now, they're in a position where they get to play in the play-ins. And not necessarily, but you look at it, that they'll get to the playoffs shortly from my standpoint. And getting to the playoff is certain. The performance at the playoff is what the question would be. And the certainty right now, because if I'm from a different team, and I look at the Golden State Warriors, I know the max man is Kevin Durant. All I need to do is find a way to stop Durant, and when you stop Durant, you get the better of the side. And for me, it's going to be pretty difficult for them going to the playoff. For me, it's going to be difficult for them and for the net side. It's very
and now that also points to importance. How important Kevin Durant is for the franchise. Before he got injured, they were 27-15. That was the record in the division, and in his absence, they went on 11-game losing streak. And that record churned for the negative 5 wins and 17 massive losses.
It shows how big the player is. For me, he seemed like the connecting dot for the Brooklyn Nets side. And whenever he comes in, he brings in a lot of leadership. And when he's not around, there's difficulty on the side. The struggle, you don't have that big figure. Other players are not stepping up to do the job. And that has been the situation. And it is very dangerous having a team depend on one player. Totally dangerous, especially going to the playoff, and that's what we're going to see. For me, I believe the Kevin Durant side, the Brooklyn Nets side, will have it quite difficult at the playoffs.
Yeah, but it's been made a little easy for them owing to the COVID-19 restriction rules in New York being relaxed. So that would allow unvaccinated players and athletes, likes of Kyrie Irving included, is enjoying the leisure of playing more games now, particularly at home. And of course, more NBA games ahead of the playoffs now. They're ranked 10th in their conference, but they need to win the next 2 games to be a part of the postseason party. Can they do that?
I think there are possibilities right now. There are possibilities with their position very risky, because they're now at a position where they have to play the play-ins before getting to the playoffs. And the question is not just about winning the next 2 games to play. It's how do you perform at these play-ins, because it's going to be such a torrid game for them. It's going to be difficult. But with Kyrie Irving being available and Kevin Durant taking the responsibility of this team, most likely I think they'll make it to the playoff for me.
All right, now let's leave the Brooklyn Nets and talk very quickly about the 76ers and Joel Embiid. Now, you just could read it on his face. He looked worried because it looked like, I've done everything, but, it looks like it's not good enough. He was asking, what do I need to do to win the MVP? So now I'll turn that question to you. It was very close last season, lost to the Nuggets, Nikola Jokic. And Jokic, by some very fine margins, is in contention and is the leading MVP candidate for this particular season again for his 2nd season running. Now, I'm putting the Joel Embiid question to you. What does this man need to do to win the MVP?
For me, basically, just to do what he's been doing right now. Exceptional game for me he's been playing. He averages about 30.6 points per game this season. Just a few days ago, we saw him hit 44 points. Exceptional player for me. But you need a top scorer this season. The first name that will come on board would be Joel Embiid. Happy for the franchise they now have Brown being a part of it, James being
James
a part of
Harden.
it, James Harden rather being a part of it. They now have James Harden being part of it, and it's going to be exceptionally moving forward for them. They're going to play quite well. That combination for me, and we're looking forward to the playoffs. For me, I think it's going to be just beyond the regular season, but what they get to do in the playoffs and how the franchise perform. But you have to look at other numbers. Jokic, you didn't mention. Jokic also has an average of 28 point something points per game, and that's massive. Not to talk about his popularity in terms of assists. You look at Joel Embiid, he has about 11 rebounds per game, and the same talk goes with the Milwaukee Bucks star, who's won a 2-time MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's having about 30 point something points per game so far and 11 rebounds. But when you look at the combination of the rebounds and assists and the points, most likely it goes to Jokic. But for me, the players ought to do what they're doing, keep performing the way you're performing, lead your team to the glory. It's going to be hard taking it away from the likes of Joel Embiid in the long run.
Right, consistency, that's going to be the very fine margin that will determine where the MVP crown goes at the end of the season. But there are 3 front runners. The Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic backing it now, looking to make it back-to-back MVP in this particular season. We've got the 76ers, Joel Embiid, not far off in that particular race. And, well, you can't rule out the Milwaukee Bucks, who are defending champions, and their star man, Giannis Antetokounmpo, not far off in that particular ratings and rankings as well. We look forward to the playoffs, and we hope these players would be on everything